We always look forward to the Vuelta in España, but this year we're really looking forward to it because it's managed to attract possibly the most illustrious start list in the history of the race. So narrowing our list down to 10 riders hasn't been easy, but here are our 10 to watch. After an incredible 2014 season in which he finished third at the Giro and then fifth at the Vuelta, Fabio Aru has already backed things up this year with a second place at his home Grand Tour behind Alberto Contador. Now, 25-year-old returned to racing recently at the Tour of Poland where he finished fifth overall, and what he'll be hoping for is that the extra freshness he's got over his key rivals coming out of the Tour de France will play to his advantage. Having crashed out of last year's race, Nairo Quintana returns to the Vuelta this year determined to make amends. This will actually be his third participation at the race, and it's the only Grand Tour now at which he hasn't finished on the podium. However, we think that's going to change this year, particularly given that the last week of the Tour de France was his best. Incredibly, this is going to be the 23rd Grand Tour in the career of Joaquim Rodriguez. That's 415 race days, or over a year of his life. And he's come agonisingly close on a couple of occasions to finishing on the top step of the podium, but always fallen slightly short. Now, at 36 years of age, it does feel like Rodriguez is always going to be the nearly man of three-week racing, but that won't stop him lighting up the 9 summit finishes on this year's race. Fourth place overall at the recent Tour de France was a resilient performance from Vincenzo Nibali, particularly given how hard he had found the first half of the race. However, as defending champion, it's unlikely that he was particularly satisfied finishing just one place off the podium. So he returns to the Vuelta after a one-year absence. This is the race, of course, where he took his maiden Grand Tour victory back in 2010. But ironically, his fiercest competition for the overall classification could come from within his own team. The last big-name rider to confirm their participation at the race was the Tour de France winner Chris Froome. But given that before both of his Tour de France victories he's ridden and finished the Vuelta, it's perhaps not a surprise that he makes a return again this year. Now, the big question is, what's his form going to be like at the race? Over the final week of the Tour de France, he did lose time to Nairo Quintana, and given that there's only been 4 weeks between the two races, it might all catch up with him. Another part of Spain's old guard is Alejandro Valverde, but at 35 years of age, he is showing absolutely no signs of slowing down. In fact, it is this year, his 14th season as a pro, that he's taken his first ever podium spot at the Tour de France. Now, it was in the Vuelta back in 2009 that Valverde took his only ever Grand Tour victory, and in 9 participations at the race, he only finished outside the top 5 on 1 occasion. He played second fiddle to Quintana at the Tour de France. He's likely to do the same thing at the Vuelta, but he embraced that at the Tour, and it could well play to his advantage again here. So those are the main GC favourites, but there are a couple of unknown quantities which we'll get onto now. The first of those is TJ van Garderen. Now, of course, he was doing very well at the Tour de France before he pulled out of the race the day after the final rest day due to sickness. So he comes to the Vuelta, but he is playing down his chances, saying that his team BMC will be riding for Sammy Sanchez in the overall classification. However, we have heard that type of thing before from other riders, and we wouldn't be at all surprised to see TJ fighting out at the front with the best. On to some sprinters now, and the pick of those for us has to be Nacer Bouhanni. Now, just before the Tour de France, he'd really got into his stride with his new team Cofidis and their lead-out train. However, a crash at the French National Championships, followed by a crash in the first week of the Tour, meant that we never saw the best of him. However, here at the Vuelta, particularly given that the 3 big-name sprinters aren't here, so Cav, Kittel or Greipel, we're predicting at least 2 stage wins. Now, one of Bouhanni's key rivals is going to be GIANT-ALPECIN's John Degenkolb. Back in 2012, he took 5 stage wins here at the Vuelta, and of course this year he's had an incredible season, winning both Milan-San Remo and Paris-Roubaix in the spring. The Vuelta is going to serve as key preparation for him as he builds up to the World Championships later in the season, but he certainly won't turn his nose up at a stage win if it presents itself. Last but by no means least is Peter Sagan. What can you say about this man? He seems to be able to do absolutely everything. Now, the Tour de France was a little bit frustrating for him in that he didn't manage to take a victory on a stage. However, he did win the green jersey and he took no fewer than 11 top 5s throughout the stages. Now, the Vuelta is going to provide plenty of opportunities for him to change that, raise his hands in victory. Which one will he have his eye on? Who knows? It could be absolutely any of them. So those are our top 10 riders to watch out for. But to give you an idea of how hard it was to narrow it down to 10, we've had to leave out the likes of Rafael Marquez, Geraint Thomas, Matteo Pellucci, Mikel Landa, Pierre Rolland, to name but a few. Sergio Henao as well. So it's going to be an absolutely fantastic race. We're going to be on the ground from the get-go, getting as much content as possible. Now, if you haven't already seen our Vuelta preview show, you can find that by clicking just up there. And if you'd like to go direct to our Vuelta playlist, which will be updated as we go, you can find that by clicking just down there. And don't forget to subscribe, then you'll get an email every time we release a video. It's absolutely free, and all you've got to do is click on me.